all week we work. We clock in, roll up our sleeves, and get the job done. And when Friday comes,
inside, 3 wide.
We all get to raise,
When they take the green, there will be 10 to go.
a little hell.
Oh! Trouble! Oh, there it goes!
And that's how restrictor plates reduce air intake. Moving on, drag is one of your biggest competitors.
It slows you down, so make sure your car is streamlined.
And don't forget to get an edge with drafting.
Take advantage of the high-pressure air between your car and the one in front. Then you can slingshot.
You guys taking notes?
At the track, in the classroom, and online. Get special ticket offers for kids at NASCAR.com/KidsTix today.
Live from the virtual Martinsville Speedway, we say good evening to race fans and welcome to the winner-take-all championship race of the 2018 eNASCAR Ignite Series, powered by iRacing on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing esports network. So happy you're joining us this evening as we get set to hand out over $10,000 in prizes to our still yet to be determined champion. My name is Evan Pasocco, joined by Justin Prince and Dylan Welch. In the booth tonight, we'll be calling all the action for you as our director, Andy Cheneth, brings us to you this evening. Gentlemen, good evening. Justin, we come into this fifth race of the playoffs. But the big transition from last week is it is no longer the round of 50 drivers. 20 drivers got cut. 30 drivers come into tonight, and all of them with an equal opportunity to fight for the championship as we get set to qualify.
Yes, the pressure is on for the drivers now. They've had 4 races through the playoffs to try and get themselves into the top 30. Show what they can do on the different various circuits. But tonight, all is on the line here with Martinsville. Winner take all to get that over $10,000 in prizes.
There's no doubt that it is going to be a ton of fun. We're going to see the heat race format that we've seen all season long thus far. And as I mentioned, want to welcome Dylan Welch into the RaceSpot TV booth with us this evening. Dylan, it's exciting stuff. We're happy to have you with us. There's a lot on the line for these 13 to 16-year-olds. We've been talking all playoffs about how making a step to a series like this for the drivers of this age is no doubt, I think, for some of them, maybe the biggest racing that they've been involved in. But tonight, with over $10,000 on the line, you're taking a look at the whole prize list. It's really an incredible opportunity.
Yeah, it certainly is, and thank you guys for welcoming me into the booth tonight. Excited to be here and join you guys. This is going to be exciting to watch. There's so much on the line, as you guys have already mentioned, so much at stake if you do it wrong and you put a toe out of line. So got to be on your game here from the very start, and that begins with qualifying and heat races as well.
And those heat races are going to be the main ticket into the main event. Of course, you do not want to go to the LCQ. There are 30 drivers here, and at this very moment in time, yes, they all do have an equal opportunity to qualify into the main event, but only 16 of those 30 will actually make it all the way to the feature race. We've been talking all season long, Justin, about how important it has been to get to that point as far as collecting points to qualify into this top 30. But tonight, it's winner take all. Doesn't matter if you make it to the feature race and finish second. The only driver who gets to walk home a champion tonight is the guy who will be our race winner.
Yeah, and that means you cannot afford to make a single mistake tonight. You have to make sure you have a quick qualifying time. You have a clean run through your heat races, and then in the feature race, you're able to position yourself to battle for the race win. You cannot afford to make any little mistake to be able to try and become the champion this season.
Drivers just wrapping up about a 10-minute practice session before this race does actually get underway. Then they will go into that 5-minute qualifying session. It is going to be 2 laps, your best lap sets your time. And of course, that time is going to dictate which heat race you do then roll off into. And as we get set for tonight's action to get underway, we're so happy to be joined by Usain Hamilton, the Senior Manager of Racing Operations and Event Management at NASCAR. Usain, you got a copy?
Yes, I got a copy.
Well, thank you for joining us. We got an exciting race coming up, so we don't want to hold you for too long, but we're appreciative of your time and happy that you're joining us here for the eNASCAR Ignite Series finale. We've had a ton of fun over these last few weeks talking about how big of an opportunity this is for the 13 to 16-year-olds that we're seeing competing on track tonight. How does NASCAR see this series as, not only a way to attract young new fans to the sport for maybe the first time, but also as a way for somebody to make their first steps into the NASCAR ladder?
Definitely. Well, hey, first off, thanks for having me on, guys. It's great to see the competition and the level of competition that the series has seen in its inaugural season on iRacing. Looking at youth racing, that's our future. So, whether it's racing on a go-kart track in real-world racing or racing on a platform like iRacing and esports, that's going to springboard drivers into the future, and that's where our future Cup stars are coming. Obviously, driver development is evolving a lot. You've seen drivers come from iRacing already. You've seen drivers like William Byron really get their start and really hone their skills starting off on sim racing. I think as you look to the future, you're going to see more of that. One of the programs I oversee is the Drive for Diversity program, and that's already a program where we're taking a hard look at the eNASCAR Ignite Series specifically, looking for talent that'll come to a combine in the future. So I think you'll see more teams doing that in the future, and looking for kids coming from new areas that maybe a traditional racetrack hasn't been able to reach yet.
We've certainly seen a couple of new names here in this NASCAR Ignite Series and some other names on the sim that have been very active on iRacing in the past. Drivers competing here and in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series over on Tuesday nights. We've had a chance over the years to talk with a lot of drivers, a lot of folks with NASCAR about their use of the iRacing service. Is it something you've raced on before? And if so, how do you think the iRacing platform could offer a true and accurate representation of what it is to drive a real race car that can directly translate into success, when you strap behind the wheel of a real car?
I think there's a lot that can carry over. Just the competition in, competing in a race car or competing with a machine. I think the hand-eye coordination, especially with iRacing, the reference points that you learn and how to enter a corner, how to drag the brake through the center of the corner and get the car to rotate, the things you learn about setup when you're working on iRacing. I think a lot of that really can contribute to developing a driver in the early stages. When you really think about it, that's the basics of what you're learning when you race a go-kart or race a legend car in real life, either way. So you're still getting those same tools. Maybe you're not necessarily getting the hands-on tools, but when it comes to your understanding and your knowledge of the car, you're certainly getting that from iRacing. And I myself, I used to race go-karts. I started racing go-karts as a kid, raced mini sprints as a kid. And then even, as early as, I'd say, 11 or 12-year-old, I started racing in some of the earlier versions of sim racing. I'll be honest with you, I still use iRacing today. As a race director, working for NASCAR, I think it's important to still understand the perspective of the drivers on the racetrack. And I will get on iRacing quite frequently before I call a race during the week leading up and make a few laps. Maybe just run a practice session, but use it as a tool to understand it from that perspective. And having been around all the tracks on the Cup circuit myself in person, I would say iRacing does a tremendous job of reflecting the actual conditions, the actual track surface, and the reference points that are actually out there.
We've had a ton of fun calling this Ignite Series over the course of the year, and we can't wait to see what is in store with the future of NASCAR and as well with the folks over at iRacing. But we want to thank you for giving us some time here pre-race. We'll let you jet out of here. Qualifying about to kick off, so we'll head back trackside. But thanks for giving us some time, and hopefully we'll chat with you again soon.
Sounds good, guys. Looking forward to seeing this top 30 compete, and looking forward to crowning a winner tonight.
It'll be a lot of fun as the top 30 drivers get set to fight for that $10,000 scholarship and more. That is our special guest this evening. To be thanks to Usain Hamilton, Senior Manager of Racing Operations and Event Management with NASCAR. And Justin, that qualifying session that we had alluded to is underway right now. Everybody getting set to find out which heat race they're going to be in. Let's just break down the format again for everybody. And if you're just tuning in with us this evening, welcome. But of course, if you've been with us over the course of these playoffs thus far, far, a little bit different than what you've seen in the past. These 30 drivers are going to be split up into 3 heat races of 10 cars apiece. The key is in these first couple of races, we're going to watch only the top 4 get that ticket into the feature.
Yeah, and we've seen in each of the heats so far in the first 4 playoff races that it's so important to get a good qualifying run and then be able to hold on to track position. With just the top 4 with each of those heats moving on, the pressure is on, especially with the track here tonight at Martinsville. Majority of the field is separated in practice and currently in qualifying by just 0.2 of a second from the 22.6s to the 22.8s. So there is basically no room for error at all, even to this point of tonight's events.
And it's very tight top to bottom. We've seen some of the faster cars so far this season a little bit on the outside looking in so far in this Q session. That's just something that you get dealing with when you've got everybody so tightly packed together. But there is a factor in this race when you're talking about 13 to 16-year-old drivers on a stage like this with an opportunity to go home with a $10,000 racing scholarship. That's not it. That's on the line. Also an opportunity to get a one-on-one driver instruction with Max Pappas, an introduction to the folks over at the NASCAR Racing Development Center, a sim seat cockpit for your sim racing. So there's a lot going on in the minds of these drivers right now. It may just be a sim race, that's true, but the complications here and the implications of what happens in the next hour and a half or so are very real.
Well, and I think you hit the nail right on the head there, that there is so much more at stake here than just winning a sim race. There's so many opportunities that can arise from having a good night here tonight, and I think that certainly would weigh on the mind of any driver competing in this race, let alone somebody who's 13, 14, 15, or 16 years old. So that pressure is certainly evident, and it is real, and it's going to make tonight that much more exciting, I think, because there is that much on the line.
I think when we looked through at the start of the playoffs, when we had that list of 50 drivers, I think it was about an even split, Justin. Half of the drivers in here, their racing experience was limited solely to the iRacing service, whereas about the other half of the field had some experience, whether it be in a real-life Legends car, quarter midgets, and you name it, anything on a local short track. So it's a pretty good 50-50 split. We've been racing now for 12 weeks. If you count that regular season, we started with 480 competitors in this eNASCAR Ignite Series. We're down to 30, and we're about to get set to go racing from the paperclip.
Yeah, and it really shows, again, what kind of talent you have to put together the drivers with real-world experience and the non-real-world experience. Watch for a lot of drivers that try and make some impacts that we might not have seen from some of them. Zach Novak's had up and down times through some of the events this year. Garrett Lowe, who was dominant for much of the playoffs this year in the regular season points champion, he's all the way down in the middle pack for qualifying. There's a lot of different storylines that we'll have to talk about during Heat 1.
Yeah, Lowe won every single week up until that of last. He's going to be starting towards the back of the cars on track now. Heat race number 1 is getting set to go. Let's go trackside and introduce you to your Race Spot TV starting grid. A pole position going to go to Dylan Alt, the number 14 machine. His 22.647, the best lap out of anybody. He will bring us to the green flag at Heat race 1, joined by Zach Novak on the outside of the front row in second. Daniel Silvestri starts third position tonight, with Aaron Mulrooney Jr. on the outside of row 2. That's going to put him P4. Spencer Park qualifies in the number 5 position. It is going to be J. Mitchell Adams in 6th position. Garrett Lowe, there he is, P7. Travis Oliver, 8th spot. Demetrius Whitney, 9th. And Nicholas Doucette rounds out our top 10. Let's get to go out on top of the pace car the next time around as we get set to go racing at the Martinsville Speedway. Dylan, the biggest track and rest of the lead-off that we've seen on the oval side of things all season with the eNASCAR Ignite Series drivers. Of course, we know all about it, the 12 degrees of banking. It is a fun track with big cars. It's going to be extra fun, I think, with these small Legends cars out there. No cautions, also going to be a very important feature to keep an eye on tonight.
And in this racetrack with these Legends cars, momentum becomes such a factor. As much of it as you can have when you're on the brakes and slowing the car down in the corner, but you've got to keep the thing wound up, keep those RPMs high, and that's sometimes tough to do if you get pinned in the bottom lane. So lots of different challenges about this racetrack.
We look forward to seeing how this plays out. The pace car is going to dive down at the safety of the pit lane this time, and we are going to get set to go racing for the first race of the night this evening. Dylan Alt, the number 14 machine's got a long time to think about it. He is going to be the control car coming out of turn 4. Green flag in the air. Heat race 1 is underway in the eNASCAR Ignite Series finale. The battle for the race lead all the way to turn 1. It was a good challenge on the outside by Novak, but not good enough. Alt clears at a turn 2 for the race lead. Again, objective top 4 cars headed to the feature.
And you're going to try and see drivers like Alt try and hug the bottom, because if you move up right off the bottom like Alt was just moved out of the way by Novak, that will lose you that preferred line and possibly lose your spots. Zach Novak up to the front.
There's a big crash in the back, guys. Nick Doucette, sorry, the 4 machine just flipped up and over. Again, no caution, so that's going to immediately send him back to the LCQ, but pretty crazy early on as we see more contact, and Dylan Alt, your pole sitter, going to get turned on the outside line. It goes from bad to worse.
Yeah, he is falling back. He got hung in that outside lane and kind of got freight trained there, and then just ran out of racetrack, was trying to get back down in line, and there just simply wasn't room, and he got turned.
Not a lot of time for these drivers to be able to go after this. 10-lap heat races, it's exactly what it has been all season long. It's not like you're giving the drivers any extra chance to kind of clear their minds in this main event of the season. Same distance, and just like that in a blink of an eye, a couple of crazy opening laps. We're nearly halfway through this thing, and Zach Novak has gone to the race lead. Daniel Silvestri really working hard in the number 2 position. He just about fenced it the last time, but he's in. Garrett Lowe up to P3 in a good position, and Spencer Tart right now occupies that final transfer position. Not really under fire. Travis Oliver way back in P5.
It can really change in the blink of an eye, though, because a lot of drivers in practice for tonight were getting snapped loose off corner exit when trying to go back into the throttle. Some drivers ended up overcorrecting in those kind of situations, and that could open up the door for Daniel Silvestri to try and jump back out in front for the heat, or send one of the 4 drivers in the transfer spots around into the inside wall.
And certainly something that you have to be concerned about. We've already seen a couple of drivers bite the bullet, per se, this evening. 9 cars still left on the lead lap. Nick Doucette knows he's done. He's stuck a lap down. You never know what might happen with the lack of caution flags, but the way it looks right now, I don't see any reason, Dylan, that the guys up front, Novak, Silvestri, those guys start funny with each other. Now, it is a point to note that when you do get to the main event a little bit later on this evening, where you finish in these heat races can be a big factor, but I don't know if you want to risk it going for a position and possibly taking each other out. We've seen that a couple of times in the playoffs. Not good results when that happens.
Yeah, and there's really no point in trying to risk it because everybody in the top 4 is moving on here. You can see Silvestri starting to pressure Novak, but not really too eager to pull the trigger on trying to make a move here. He's certainly looking inside and out, but no real pressure. Now he gives a bump to Novak, so maybe he is in a hurry to try and get towards the front and win this heat race.
The same way Novak got to the race lead, he ushered Dylan Alt out of the way basically on the opening lap, but Daniel Silvestri wants to go for it. He'll move the 2, but on the inside, Garrett Lowe from way back into P7 on the grid. He'll storm up the inside of the racetrack, take over second. Novak goes down to shut the door. We're far from over. 1 lap to go in heat race number 1. If all these drivers make it back, they're going to be in to tonight's 30-lap feature race, but what order do they finish? It's still Novak on the inside. The 23 looks high, the 1 looks low. We're going to be 3 wide for the race lead the final time to quarters 3 and 4. Everybody tries to hold it straight. Somehow they'll do so, and there's going to be the contact. It's going to be Novak to the race win. Garrett Lowe spins and falls outside of a transfer position, finishing P5.
Can you believe that? Look at on board with Garrett Lowe with that intense battle, because he was back in around P3, P4 before those final couple laps, closed up with the momentum and got himself in position to make it 3 wide off of turn 2 and to get towards that preferred bottom line. But a heck of a battle. Unfortunate for him to send him around to fall outside the transfer spot.
And he was doing such a good job there with staying patient, let those 2 guys in front of him kind of battle it out, and he was there to capitalize, and then ultimately just ran out of racetrack and space and got turned around.
A tough break for the Wonder Machine. He was able to make it across the line, so he may be your top qualifier by the time we get to the LCQ, but he does not transfer in. That's the risk we talked about. Was it worth it? We'll find out. Zach Novak, Daniel Silvestri, Spencer Tart, and Aaron Mulrooney Jr., your top 4. They are headed into tonight's feature race. Garrett Lowe, P5, and then everybody else on the back. Travis Oliver, Demetrius Whitney, Dylan Alt, J. Mitchell Adams, and Nicholas Doucette are headed to the LCQ. As we say that, heat race number 2 now rolls off the grid. We'll introduce you to them all, top to bottom, with a look at your Race Spot TV starting grid. Austin Edwards, second best time in the queue, puts him on pole for heat race number 2. He'll start alongside the number 16 machine of Briar LaPrade, who starts in second. Andy Trippiano, we've seen speed out of the 8 machine thus far in the playoffs. He'll start third, with Nicholas Lobish rolling off in P4. Back in row 3, it's going to be Mikey Neal 5th, and Kenny Brady in the number 6 spot. D. Parker behind them 7th, with Devin Serra rolling off at 8th. Hunter Moose rolling off at 9th, and Hunter O. Johnson rounds out your top 10. We saw a lot of carnage in the opening heat race. Curious, Justin, if everybody in this second heat race, because by the way, they were watching that, curious if these guys learned anything.
Yeah, curious to see what kind of lines they're running, because some drivers might notice the high side can possibly work to try and defend if you allow the driver underneath to go on by, then cross them up to get back to the bottom side. They're probably noting, okay, this is what happened with some of the incidents. How am I going to try and attack these corners to try and get position?
Heat race number 2 underway from Martinsville. Green flag in air, second time in a row. The outside, the better start. Briar LaPrade was gone way before. Your pole sitter Austin Edwards in the 27 got going. It'll correct itself in 1. It is going to be Edwards first, LaPrade second, Trippiano third, single file. The top 5 down the back.
Yeah, a pretty good start overall, but look at some of the traffic just behind that bubble spot. Some of the drivers trying to push through. D. Parker on that preferred bottom line. You have Devin Serra ready to push on forward and trying to keep up with that back bumper bar of Mikey Neal.
Andy Trippiano there in that 3rd spot has got the entire pack bearing down on him as one car goes into the wall on the inside of the straightaway at the entry to turn 3, but a hungry pack of guys behind him here, all looking for a way around and trying to lock themselves into the show.
And the question is now, how aggressive are you going to be on the defense? No doubt Mikey Neal P4, he needs to fight for everything he's got. The battle's going to be for 5th behind him. Here comes Devin Serra on the inside of the racetrack. That's the blue number 15 down low, trying to complete a pass on the 22 Nicholas Lobish, and more contact behind them. Look at that. Kenny Brady sends the 17. That's not going to work. Contact. Johnson into the outside wall. He'll take Moose with him, and 2 cars drop out of it.
Yeah, in that case, it looked to me where Patrick Moose got a bit of contact on the back bumper bar. Then, as he's tried to correct the car basically for the exit, started to get a slight touch loose, really. It started swinging to the left into Hunter O. Johnson. That loses them a heck of a lot of track position. To the back of the field for 9th and 10th they go.
They'll trickle on down to the back. Again, you're not mathematically out of this thing, but when you're 5 seconds back, you're going to need really something big to happen up at the front of the field if you want to be able to make it into the top 4. At the end of it all, Devin Serra did get P5. Question is, can he chase down, should say, Mikey Neal? Well, the gap, 0.8 of a second the last time by. A better lap for Serra, but you're talking about Dylan only a couple of tenths of a second that last time by. It was about 4/100ths, I think, actually. Serra over Neal. It's faster, but not fast enough coming to 4 to go.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He's running out of time as they work lap number 6 and cross the line to put lap 7 on the board here. He may be a little bit faster, but is he going to have enough time to run down Mikey Neal and get into the transfer spot?
No changes 1, 2, and 3. It's Edwards, LaPrade, and Trippiano. They run exactly in the positions in which they started. LaPrade, Trippiano getting a little bit close, a couple of laps back there. The 8 was all over the back of the 16, but if I learned one thing from Heat Race 1, it is not worth it fighting for 2nd and 3rd when risking, the fact that, sure, that extra position up on the grid in the main event would be nice, but to risk dropping out of the top 4 like we saw with the issue that involved Garrett Lowe, I don't think these guys are going to fight it out. Top 3 stretch it a little bit of Mikey Neal. I don't think the 11's going to complain much at all, though, Justin, that he's in no man's land. 2 laps to go. He's pretty safe still.
Yeah, he's got about a 6 or 7 car length difference between him and Devin Serra right now. So as long as he doesn't make a major mistake, I think he's got the spot secure, especially with the times. He's currently a 1/10 of a second quicker than Devin Serra on that bubble spot.
White flag to be in the air this time by for Austin Edwards. He's having his best run of the playoffs thus far, and he looks like he's going to be able to walk this one all the way from pole to checkers. Final time down the back straightaway. LaPrade close, but not close enough. The gap going to be maybe 3-4 car lengths as they come off for the final quarter, and Austin Edwards wins in heat race number 2 and it punches his ticket into the feature race. He'll be joined by Brian LaPrade, who comes home second, Andy Trippiano, who finishes third, and Mikey Neal, who snatches a spot away from Lobish. Those will be your top 4 transfers from Heat Race 2.
The rest of the field for your Heat Race 2, Devin Serra finished about just under a second back for 5th. Kenny Brady, Nicholas Lobish, Hunter O. Johnson, Patrick Moose, and D. Parker round out the 10 drivers for the second heat. For D. Parker, after that contact with the wall, he finished 2 laps down.
Let's look top to bottom at your Heat Race 2 finish sheet results. The action keeps on going as we head right in to Heat Race number 3. About to find out the final drivers that are going to get that ticket into the feature, and we'll also know the field that's going to be racing in the LCQ. That race comes up next. But we go trackside and take a look at the Race Spot TV starting grid for this one, and it'll be Dave Walsh, third best time to Q. Means he leads Heat Race 3 to the green flag this evening. He'll be joined by Riley Thompson in the 13, who starts in second. Ryan Matthews, Jacob Hall going to make up row 2. That's going to be 3rd and 4th position, respectively. Raja Karuth, we've seen a lot of that car thus far. He'll start P5 with Dylan Hodge rolling off at number 6 position. Jake Matheson in 7th. Ryan Papage at 8th spot. You've also got Jarrett Liebert 9th and Braden Karras on the outside of row 5, rounding out your field in P10. Certainly a lot less contact, I would say, Dylan, in that last heat race than what we saw in the first one, but it still seems like if you start up front, you're in a pretty safe position. That kind of ties in with what we were expecting. Martinsville, a pretty big track. If you don't get those passing opportunities early, it looks like it's going to be very difficult to catch somebody if you don't take advantage right away.
Yeah, well, and these cars get strung out, and they get to be going the same speed, so it's hard to make a move on somebody because you're really not that much faster or slower than anybody else. So the restarts and the initial start's so important to making a move and being aggressive, and then certainly if you have a chance later in the race, you want to take advantage of it. And that's what we saw in that first heat race, guys, just maybe being a little bit over aggressive, and in the second one they were a little more patient.
So far, we know half the field of the feature race. Let's qualify 4 more drivers in. Pace car down and in. Let's see if the inside can get going this time, and it does. Dave Walsh takes the green flag, and we're off and away from Martinsville for Heat Race 3. But look at that 13. We should Riley Thompson aggressively dives low, and he'll go side by side for the race lead. Not a good exit at it, too, and Thompson's got a good shot down to turn 3.
Yeah, Thompson in that preferred line. Knew Dave Walsh knowing he wanted to get to that bottom side, make sure he was on that bottom side to try and defend. But now it's going to be very difficult, especially too with Ryan Matthews, who is also a very quick driver right on the back bumper bar now with Thompson. In trouble.
13's going to get turned around, and it is going to be a big mess. Thompson involved, Matthews involved, looks like Liebert also, and again, no caution, so we will stay green. But Thompson goes from looking for the race lead to looking the wrong way around. Looked like he got a little bit of help on that one. The 3 pushed him
more
up
trouble
into the
front
20.
stretch. More trouble just on the front stretch. Raja Karouf just went hard into the inside wall. So did the number 9 machine.
And that's Jacob Hall in the 9, who also went up and into the outside wall. Take it back, but I said we might see less accidents. It is chaos on track, and it is completely shuffled up. The running order on the scoring pylon. Dave Walsh somehow ends up in front of this. I thought he was going to be sent to the wolves there, Dylan. He was on the outside, everybody looking low, and somehow 3 laps later, he's leading this race by a second.
And just kept his nose clean there and let those guys behind him kind of duke it out. And now he's got clean racetrack ahead of him, and his car's not damaged at all, and it seems like just about everybody else has had some sort of incident. So that play worked perfectly. He was hung in the outside there, but held his line and let everybody else fall by the wayside.
Good testament to how important qualifying well in this eNASCAR Ignite Series is. So he's a second clear at Jake Matheson. How about those big moves? Matheson started 7th, and he now runs at a transfer spot P2. Braden Karras at a 30 started 10th position, all the way at the back. That was the slowest qualifying time out of anybody in this one. He is up to 3rd position, and then Ryan Papazian occupies 4th. That's where he gets interesting. That's the cut line, and Papazian's only about 2-3 car lengths in front of Dylan Hodge right now. You're looking at the battle for the transfer spot.
Yeah, and it just shows again, if you can keep your car clean, as well as, of course, getting the good qualifying run, you'll be in a great position to try and transfer. And in this case, every single driver really in the top 4, top 5 really, have been able to avoid some of the troubles so far to move up the positions they have. While everyone else, of course, losing a ton of spots from being a bit over-aggressive, to say the least, in the first few laps of Heat 3, Dylan.
And that's just, again, a testament to these guys who have kept their nose clean, that, you know, many of these guys that are up here battling for the transfer spot started in the back and maybe didn't think they had a chance, but just through the luck of the draw and the way things have worked down this heat race, they've been able to drive through the mess, and now we've got a good battle for the transfer spot here with 3 cars in it.
Admittedly, we haven't gotten down to 2 laps to go in a heat race thus far and seen a battle down to the wire for a transfer position. But look at Papazian. He'll go to the inside of the 30 machine. This is big because he's going to put a car between him and a 10. Nice move. Papazian moves up into P4. And now all of a sudden it's the number 30 machine on the chopping block, and the 10's going to send it. He'll push him all the way and up and out of the groove. It's the battle for a spot into the feature race. And Dylan Hodge, absolutely no holds bar, forces his way through with a white flag in the air. Question is, did you leave the 30 too much time to give it to you right back? Final time to turn 3. Does the 30 go for the move? He'll give him a shot into the corner, but he's not going to be able to get the undercut, and he'll come up shy. The win to Dave Walsh, and the battle for 4th, Dylan Hodge will hang on to it. He, along with Walsh, Matheson, Papazian, and Hodge, are all going to the feature race.
And we've talked about a bit sending it that time. Hodge ended up trying to send him know that he needed to make the move the driver up in front to get to the transfer spot. And that's what he ends up doing in this one. As you can see, the rest of the drivers that do not move on. Unfortunate circumstance for guys like Jarrett Liebert in this one, Raja Karup, Jacob Hall, Riley Thompson, Ryan Matthews. That makes it very interesting, though, for the LCQs tonight here, guys.
Well, it certainly does, and you know, you thought those heat races were tough. We're talking about 10 drivers per, getting cut down to 4. Your odds are certainly not any better. We mentioned at the top of the night that 16 drivers would qualify into the feature. We know 12 of them, 4 from each of our 3 heat races, but now as the remaining 18 cars go trackside, only the top 4 of them are going to qualify into this main event. There's a lot of them. We'll go top to bottom. Here's a look at your LCQ starting grid. Garrett Lowe will bring us to the green flag in this one alongside Devin Serra, who starts in second. Braden Karras going to be P3 after just missing out at that race down to the line in Heat Race 3. He'll be alongside Travis Oliver, who rolls off into 4th, and Kenny Brady rounds out our top 5.
Jarrett Liebert's in the 6th spot tonight, followed by Demetrius Whitney and Nicholas Lobish in row 4. Round 5 features Riley Thompson, who's trying to recover from his incident in Heat Race 3, and Dylan Alt, who was the pole sitter for Heat 1. He'll try and recover in the 10th spot.
Hunter O. Johnson going to roll from P11. That's going to put him on the inside of row 6 alongside Ryan Matthews, who will start in 12th. J. Mitchell Adam gets the 13th starting position along with Patrick Moose and Jacob Hall to the top 15. Nick Doucette, D. Parker, and Raja Karuth 16, 17, and 18th. Round out your LCQ starting grid. Dylan, you thought they wanted it bad. Now it's your last chance. 4 drivers of the 18 moving on.
Yeah, and it's time now. We saw some desperation moves in those heat races, and can't wait to see what we're going to watch unfold here over the next 12 laps in this LCQ. Got Garrett Lowe, who made a charge there in his heat race starting up front, so going to be fun to see if we can hold these guys off.
Ace card added in, a little bit of extra time to board as we get set for 12 laps of LCQ action. Green flag in the air, let's go back racing from Martinsville. Clean start up front, but nearly 3 wide for third. Look at the 12 car. Kenny Brady, first car on the outside looking in. He wants to find a way through, and here's his opportunity. Oliver goes wide out of the quarter, side by side for P4. He's got him.
Yeah, pretty clean for the most part, but sideways, Braden Caress, and that's going to cause a bottleneck. In big trouble, Travis Oliver against the wall. 3-4 drivers with troubles. They're 3 wide into 1.
And 4 wide down to turn 1. The big winner in all of that's going to be Jarrett Liebert. Still not in the clear. The fortunate Dylan Alt is all kinds of sideways. And somehow we survive for the time being. Not in the clear yet, though, as Liebert gets third. But now he'll get loosened up. It's Lobish to the outside. And out on the low side of the racetrack, here comes Karras also. Free-for-all for the final transfer spot. More contact.
Everybody just keeps getting bottled up down there on that bottom groove, and everybody's right on top of each other. They can't get any separation to try and get these things wound up and get off of one another, and that's why we've seen so much contact, is these guys are just running out of room, all going for the same spot.
So much is on the line, and you can see as they continue to scrap all of this is for third on back, and there's a big hit. Nicholas Lobish going to be turned into the outside wall. His night comes to a screeching halt after he was in third position. It was the 25 who hit him, and all of a sudden, Liebert now on the outside of 3 wide. It's Matthews in the middle, then on to Jacob Hall down low, and here comes Dylan Alt digging aggressively. That side-by-side battle's the one for P4. And there goes the 12 of Brady.
Yeah, Brady getting hooked. It looked like there maybe the 30 of Braden Caress making the contact there. But again, getting to the point Dylan said before, they're all bottled up, knowing this is right where the transfer spot is, that they need, some of them need to be aggressive. Liebert's now off the racetrack and currently holding on to that bubble spot for now is Dylan Holt. He's going to have to hold on for dear life with the the racing's going on here.
And he's got Jacob Hall all over his back bumper down the backstretch looking for a way around, and now he pulls to the inside in this battle for the transfer spot.
That's the battle you want to watch. They're funny to behind for 5th, but this is what matters. And look how aggressive they number 9. Hall has pushed Alt all the way up to the outside wall. He clears him. The 14 bumps him out of the way. How about that for a crossover move? Give it back to the 14. I think Hall catches the fence that time, but it's not going to help his case as Dylan Alt gets about 2 car lengths because of it.
Yeah, Hall did make contact with the wall, and that ended up losing him the time there trying to keep things together. But look what's going on just behind him. They're all bottled up right now, trying to avoid contact, and there's going to be trouble again in turn 2.
More issues at a quarter 2. You got a lot of cars stacked up on top of each other. The difference here is it's no longer for that transfer position on back. Those cars have broken away just a little bit. Certainly desperation set it in because with 4 laps to go, if you're in this battle for P7, Dylan, you're not in the conversation. You need 4th. You don't have time to do it. Dylan Alt still in that final transfer position.
Yeah, and those guys really have probably run out of time unless these 2 battling for the transfer spot get into it a little bit more and take each other out, because they are just so far behind right now, almost 10 or 15 car lengths, and with only 3 or 4 laps remaining here, they're just not going to have enough time to reel these guys in, especially if they keep battling like they are.
I don't think that it is going to slow down anytime soon. These drivers fighting it for everything it's worth. The popsicle stick's going to be in the air. 2 laps to go, Justin. It's all Garrett Lowe up front as he looks like he's going to get redemption for the accident on the final lap of Heat Race 1. But do we see any other changes 1 through 4?
Yeah, Lowe's been basically taking off from the get-go, recorded the fastest time by 1/10 of a second, has been running on average 2 to 3 tenths a second per lap faster than the rest of the field. He's off to clear sailing as he takes the white flag.
White flag in the air, final time around for the LCQ. For the virtual Martinsville Speedway, it's all Garrett Lowe. He's clear out in front. Dylan Alt made that crossover move on the 9. And I think once Jacob Hall got into the outside wall, he just didn't have enough to be able to get back to him. Final time now, down into the quarter. Garrett Lowe's going to come off of the final turn. He'll win the LCQ. Devin Sarah 2nd. Ryan Matthews 3rd. And most importantly, just above the bubble, Dylan Alt, who comes home at 4th, makes the transfer, and that's what the 9 thinks about that fight.
Yeah, that was an aggressive fight, but overall, it was a heck of a fight to try and make sure you get towards things. Look, as you see with the results here, guys, Garrett Lowe, Devin Sarah, Ryan Matthews doing all being the ones advancing for these 16 drivers, with Hall, Moose, Thompson, Johnson, Whitney, and Doucette in that top 10. But it was a gaggle of cars like Gores, Oliver, Caruth, Adams, Lebesh, Parker, Brady, and Liebert, who all lost a lot of time trying to shuffle around, and that allowed basically the top 5 to pull away by almost a quarter of a track by the checker flag.
It was certainly pretty crazy. I think the stat that really exemplifies that, Dylan, is that more cars who started inside of the top half of the field, so more cars that started top 9 finished in the bottom 9 than stayed up towards the front half of the field, and there was a ton on the line. And, you know, we started at 480 drivers. We cut it down to 50. We cut it down to 30 at the start of the evening. Unfortunately, the road ends here for the likes of Hall, Moose, Thompson, Johnson, Whitney, Doucette, Karras, Oliver, Caruth, Adams, Lobish, Parker, Brady. You got to Liebert as well. Give all those guys their due for making it this far, but it gets real now. If you weren't sweating about an hour ago, we get about a minute until we go trackside for a 30-lap main event, and in the balance hangs the eNASCAR Ignite Series title.
Well, and like we talked about at the beginning of this broadcast, there was just so much on the line from the very start, and it was so important to have a good qualifying effort, to have a good heat race, and these guys knew that. So they were aggressive from the start because they knew they needed to make their passes when they had the opportunities in front of them, and sometimes it just didn't work out. So like we said, you know, you can't fault these guys at all for trying to put it all on the line and going for it really in these heat races, because they didn't have any other choice. If they got buried behind in this last chance qualifier, they just wouldn't have had enough time really to drive up through there. So the heat race is so important, and that was evidenced by some of the moves we saw.
The $10,000 scholarship, again, headlines the prizes, but again, there's so much more involved in what is on the line in this feature race, and we've made the point several times that a lot of these drivers, their only experience to racing is on the iRacing service. There was a good number of drivers in here who do race in the real world. Again, all these drivers aged 3 to 16. I can promise you the next 15-20 minutes or so is going to be life-changing for one of our 30 drivers. The grid is set. Let's introduce you to them. We go trackside one final time. Here's your starting grid for tonight's main event from Martinsville. So Zach Novak goes on with a heat race earlier on this evening, and therefore will start on a pole position for the main event with Austin Edwards in the number 27 starting in P2. Back on row 2, going to be Dave Walsh rolling off from 3rd. Those are your top 3 drivers, heat race winners from earlier this evening, and Daniel Silvestri will roll from P4. Behind him, Briar LaPrade rounds out your top 5.
Jake Matheson's had some luck in his heats to finish off in the top 4, and it will start off in 6. Spencer Tart and Anthony Tropiano will be in row 4 with Ryan Papazian and Aaron Maroney starting off inside the top 10.
You've also got Mikey Dale starting in at P11, but Dylan Hodge to his outside in 12th position. Garrett Lowe starts 13th. He's been the top driver all year, but he's got a long way to go alongside Devin Sarah in 14th. Ryan Matthews 15th, and Dylan Alt, that final transfer driver, does start in the 16th and final position on the grid here tonight from the virtual Martinsville Speedway. There's been countless laps that have been put into this, not counting, of course, the 14 weeks nearly of racing that these drivers have gone through, but it all comes down to this green flag and the 30 laps that follows. The pace car will head down this time, and we will go racing for 30 laps in Martinsville with over $10,000 hanging in the balance with this eNASCAR Ignite Series title race. Pace car down. Zach Novak is going to want to get out and in front of the chaos as soon as he can, and there he goes. Green flag in the air. We're racing for 30 laps.
And a lot of space gathered up on the start of this one, about 2-3 car lengths to get away from Dave Walsh and the rest of the pack. A very good start overall for him to get himself the space. The question is, can he keep that amount of time that he gained on the start, especially with guys like Garrett Lowe trying to work the way through the said pack?
And he's certainly got a comfortable gap, and not the same story for Dave Walsh. The entire field bearing down on him right now, and if he's not careful, that could be something that leads to a mistake. That all that pressure from behind as the guys start to bob and weave down the back straightaway here. He's starting to get a little bit more separation now that'll make him more comfortable.
And that's exactly what he wants to hope for. 30 laps, again, more than double the longest race that we've seen thus far. I'm sure these drivers know what they're going to have on tires over that distance as we see the battle for third. Here comes Austin Edwards up at the inside of Briar LaPrade, trying to play defense. The 16's the one trying to complete the move up top. LaPrade had a nose advantage the last time to start-finish line, and looks like Edwards is good in the center, but there's going to be contact. How about some 3 wide? Here we go with a 5 car. Jake Matheson to the inside. He wants to take it away from both of them.
And some big major implications because Garrett Lowe at that same time made contact with Garrett Lowe. Ryan Matthews done for the day. Garrett Lowe now about a quarter of a track behind for the race leader after making contact in turns 3 and 4. And that could be a huge one for the most dominant driver of this season.
And Briar LaPlade, who was running inside the top 5 there, jumped a wheel, and he's fallen back now outside of the top 5. Just product of that 3 wide racing there. He just kind of got run out of room and jumped the right rear.
A tough break, certainly. Again, your one mistake's basically going to be it for you. A lot of drivers still within striking distance. Couple of tenths here, couple of tenths there, but I think there's no doubt the top 2 cars on track are first, second, Zach Novak, Dave Walsh, and they are showing it. Novak's got a half a second lead over Walsh, and then it is nearly a monstrous gap of 1.5 seconds between the second place runner Walsh and Austin Edwards, who runs in third. I'm not sure if these guys are going to even have an opportunity to make up that much ground in the 24 laps that remain. These top 2 have checked out, and they've done it early.
Yeah, and they're putting together some great lap times. They started off very strong with the 22 sevens for the best lap times. Dave Walsh was actually faster than Zach Novak. But the thing that's going to make it difficult is everyone else third on back is running the same exact pace as the leaders, making it going to be very difficult to try and close in when you're running the exact same lap times, Dylan.
Well, and Walsh has reeled in Zach Novak here in this race for the lead. I mean, just to the naked eye, that gap has shrunk over the course of the last few laps, and they're only about a couple car lengths apart from each other now as the top 2 have left the field.
They've continued to check at it. I think a lot of that goes to just how good that restart was. We had seen a good amount of polarity so far through this evening as far as drivers on the inside getting a good start, drivers on the outside getting a good start. We didn't really see this dominant of a restart all night, and Zach Novak got it when it mattered the most. Again, the control car gets to dictate that start, and he checked way out. I'm really impressed with Dave Walsh because it was a point that Dylan was making just right off at the start. He was trailing Novak by pretty much the gap they sit at now almost immediately. He had to fend off the battle from third on back, clear them, and then catch back up to the 2 machine. Now, he's lost a little bit of time the last few times around the racetrack, so we continue to watch those intervals, but it really looks like at this point a race between Zach Novak and Dave Walsh. Every time these guys come off of the quarter, I'm watching to see if they keep it out of the fence. They're oh so close to it every single time, basically doing a hot lap every time around.
And Walsh is getting more closer to the edge with each and every lap because he's nearly drifting his way around some of these quarters, just a tiny bit sideways, and that's losing him a touch bit of time. Not too much, but it's enough to where he loses about a tenth of a car length each and every time around because of how much he's drifting on these exits to try and go in as quick as he can into the entrances and try and maintain that speed for the exits.
Well, and we noticed how quickly he had closed that gap initially, Walsh had, and you wonder maybe if he had heated up his tires or used up his tires a little bit too much here in the early going, and he's starting to fall back now. Novak has run a pretty steady pace, but Walsh is starting to slip back towards that battle for third.
And it's not the direction the number 20 machine wants to be going in. Over 16 states and 4 countries currently being represented in this main event for the Martinsville Speedway. Zach Novak getting into a rhythm, which I don't think is something we've really thought at all about yet tonight, Justin. That hasn't come anywhere near the forefront of our thoughts. We've seen a lot of chaos. That third heat race was absolutely insane. The LCQ was equally as dramatic, but for the first time, when he put 30 laps in it, these drivers can go out there, get into a rhythm, and for somebody like a Zach Novak, who is very experienced on the iRacing service, once you let him get comfortable, it's going to be tough to get him out of that zone.
Yeah, especially with him being a part of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series and being one of the top drivers for the 2018 season. It's extremely challenging to face that kind of a person. But you gotta, again, give that credit to Dave Walsh, because this is one of his strongest runs of the entire playoffs. He ran overall in the points, 8th in the point standings, and now he's in his best shot to come away with the victory if he can keep up the pace, currently maintaining a 0.6 of a second gap to the back of Novak.
Yeah, he's kind of plateaued there and falling back in that towards that battle for third. He's at least kept Novak in his sights, and he is within striking distance here, and you can see he's driving into the corner hard, and that's where he gains time, but Novak has been smooth and steady off the corner, and that's where he begins to gap Walsh again.
Curious if we can get an onboard shot with one of these top two, because you got to be thinking now, how much clarity is going to be too much? They've been racing in these short heat races, these LCQs, and these quick features all season long. As you take it on board right on now, you've been thinking for the last 7 days since you knew you qualified into the top 30 from our last race at Stafford. What is it going to be like to race on this kind of a stage? How am I going to execute? And the only thing that stands between Zach Novak, it appears, at a championship tonight is himself. He needs to keep it clean up front, and you have to wonder just what thoughts are going through his head.
Yeah, he's probably thinking, as long as I don't make a mistake, this is going to be a huge jump start for the career. You can see him trying to continue up to maintain his racing life. Make sure he doesn't make contact with that outside wall on the corner exits, because as long as he doesn't make a mistake, he could very well hold on, because now Dave Walsh, with the tires wearing down, with Dave Walsh making contact, has allowed Zach Novak to check out to the full second lead. For him, he's probably thinking, this is going to be one of the biggest moments of my early racing career so far.
And the nice thing about the advantage that he has is that Walsh isn't really close enough to even start to worry Novak, so he can just focus out that front windshield and worry about hitting his own marks and not worry about that gap shrinking, because in fact it's grown over the last few laps as Novak continues to drive away and run consistent lines. He's doing exactly what he needs to do, just hitting his marks, driving his race, and so far it's working for him as we're under 10 to go.
And that comfort, I think, is really going to help him. You don't have to push it that aggressively off of the corner each time. You can give it a little bit easier, maybe into the throttle, work that 0.9 of a second advantage. There is no reason to overdrive the car when you've got Dave Walsh sitting there. Now, he's not on the back bumper to position where he's going to be, applying the pressure to the point where Novak keeps glancing up in the rearview mirror. I promise you he's keeping an eye on the intervals, and he certainly feels the presence at the 20, but I don't think Walsh, and I agree with Dylan on that point, that I don't think he's in a spot that he's going to force Novak into a mistake. That's not the position that we're in. But if I'm Dave Walsh, don't get frustrated. You cannot overdrive that car. Don't take yourself out of this, because one small mistake, a slip up, a little bit of contact with the outside wall, you're right back in this thing. Austin Edwards is still a second behind you, running in third, and pretty constantly at 27 has been a few car lengths in front of Silvestri fourth and Jake Matheson to P5. So both these drivers in the top two just trying to make it home. 6 laps to go this time by.
Yeah, and even if Walsh cannot catch up to the back of Novak again, he's got a lot to be proud of tonight to be able to be in this position. As well, drivers like Austin Edwards and everyone else really among the field to be able to get themselves to the top 30 and be in the top 5 for the eNASCAR Ignite Series, to be able to compete to try and come away as the eNASCAR Ignite Series champion. The thing is, though, you don't want to be a driver like Silvestri where he's starting to bounce off the walls. You just want to make sure at this point, if you are as far back as your third on back, you get to the finish line.
I certainly think that's all you hope for, and that also applies, with everybody else all the way through 16th. Only Ryan Matthews is out of this race. That everybody back to Mulrooney still running on the racetrack such an accomplishment from again a field that started 480 drivers deep to make it to the top 16 in this inaugural installment of the eNASCAR Ignite Series. Going to be an accomplishment in and of itself. It might sting for the next couple of days that you got oh so close and missed out. I think everybody in this race going to be proud of what they have done, but 2 laps to go next time by. Zach Novak is still the fastest car on track, now 1.2 seconds to the race lead.
And Evan, you mentioned it there. It's such a grind throughout this race season, such a long season for many of these drivers. Just to be in this point, to be in the feature event here in the season finale at Martinsville is a great accomplishment, and something that, like you said, after the initial sting of maybe not getting to victory lane passes, something that they certainly should all be proud of.
As he comes to take the white flag, he is going to look for what would just be his second checkered on this entire 2018 campaign. But as the white nylon flies for Zach Novak, it is 1 lap left to go for the Martinsville Speedway. The teenager out of Connecticut is won a championship in real life driving quarter minutes, but he is also one of the top drivers on the iRacing service competing at its highest level in the Pecan Free Series, but he's going to have another title to add to his name. Final time at turn 4, and Zach Novak is your 2018 eNASCAR Ignite Series champion with a exclamation point move here in the 30-lap main event. Absolutely dominant by the driver of the number 2 car.
Yeah, a heck of a drive from the start, and I think he might just blow the engine preparing for a burnout, in fact, but a heck of a drive to be able to separate himself from the start. Had some pressure from behind from Dave Walsh for much of the race, but overall, Novak able to come away as the 2018 eNASCAR Ignite Series champion. A proud moment for sure for Zach.
We had a ton of fun talking about what this series would be, Dylan, when it was introduced to us. 13 to 16-year-olds, a lot of them spend a lot of time on this iRacing service. I mentioned to you that we've got drivers who race almost only on iRacing, drivers who have a lot of real-life experience, and I think Zach Novak shows that having experience in both disciplines is absolutely critical because he races at the top level on the sim. He has won in real life at a quarter midget, and he ends up becoming the champion. I think that's very fitting to show how important both disciplines are to finding success.
You're absolutely right about that. Having experience in the real world, in a real race car, certainly is beneficial, but it's different than being in the sim. So having sim experience and being a competitive and a strong sim racer is certainly beneficial, and it benefits both. The real world experience benefits racing on the sim and vice versa. So having both in your back pocket certainly puts you at an advantage, and we saw that evidence there by Zach Novak. Controlled the race from the drop of the green flag all the way to the checkered.
He's going to come home the race winner. Let's look top to bottom at your RaceSpot TV full race results. Zach Novak, your champion. We'll go trackside and chat with him as soon as we can. We'll also maybe get a word with the other top finishers. Great runs for the likes of Dave Walsh, who comes home in second. Austin Edwards third, along with Daniel Silvestri and Jake Matheson, who round out the top 5. A lot to be proud of for a hard-fought season for them. Briar LaPrade is able to slide home at a P6 result. Andy Trippiano 7th, with Dylan Alt coming out in 8th spot. Mikey Neal is 9th, and Devin Serra rounds out our top 10.
And just outside that said top 10, Ryan Papazian, Dylan Hodge, and one of the biggest stories, Garrett Lowe. Remember, he had to go to the LCQ, started 13th, made contact with Ryan Matthews. He ends up recovering to finish 13th after being the regular season and basically the playoff champion after 3 victories in the 4 rounds. Spencer Tart, Aaron Mulrooney Jr., and Ryan Matthews round out the 16 drivers in this year's finale for the 2018 eNASCAR Ignite Series.
Ton of fun through these 5 weeks of the playoffs. We have our second place finisher, Dave Walsh, standing by. Trackside with him is Justin.
Dave, do you have a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
Dave, you just finished off second tonight. How are you feeling after such a hard-fought season for the eNASCAR Ignite Series?
I mean, for me, I had not had a good time. And then the regular season, I was getting to the feature most races, but then I'd wreck or something bad had happened. But I mean, tonight, like, I had the pace. I was just not enough consistency to get Novak there. I think I did maybe have a little more speed than him, but there was a few times I get loose off the corner, and that would be him gaining a couple tenths. So I mean, really, he just beat me. Wish I had some excuse, but I don't.
I want to ask this as well because it looked at times the car started to get loose as you were trying to keep up with the back of Novak. How was that car feeling as the race went on towards the checkered flag?
Yeah, as it went on, I mean, I found myself getting a bit more kind of just nervous, just wanting to gain the time back, maybe being a bit too hard on the brakes. And then as the tires got more and more worn, you'd get looser and looser off the corner. So whenever I'd put the foot down trying to gain a couple tenths, you'd end up getting a bit loose and you'd actually lose a couple tenths. So yeah, Zach, just fairness to him, really composed, really consistent.
And with that, of course, coming away tonight with second after a long eNASCAR Ignite Series season, what's going through your mind from this season? What do you hope to take from this for the future?
I mean, I definitely got a lot better at short tracks doing this series. You know, when the series started, I was hoping for top fives. I debated not even running it. And then by the end of the regular season, I was able to win races. And then now, I suppose, coming second in the season, I probably shouldn't be complaining. But being so close from such a big prize, it's not a nice feeling.
And with that, is there anyone you want to thank for being a part of your season for 2018?
All the guys at PRG and my teammates Jacob and Mikey for practicing with me, trying to learn how to race together, learn how to race, actually being able to know what it's like to be around people before the race started was a big help. And if it came to it, we practiced moving each other out of the way, so if I did get to the back of Zach, I could have moved him.
Thank you very much for the time, Dave. Congratulations on the second place finish tonight.
Thanks.
That's Dave Walsh coming away second in the final showdown for the 2018 running of the eNASCAR Ignite Series. Evan?
Well, the difference was 1.2 seconds, but it is going to make a world of a difference because your champion and race winner tonight for Martinsville is Zach Novak, who's your 2018 eNASCAR Ignite Series champion, powered by iRacing, a driver who has won over 850 races on the iRacing service on the official side, 2 of which are wins at the highest oval level in the NASCAR Pecan Freeze iRacing series, but something tells me this might just be the sweetest. We're trackside with the driver of the 2. Zach, congratulations.
Thanks, Evan. It hasn't really set in for me yet. It was awesome. I felt like I played that race pretty good, and it's surreal. I don't even know what to say, honestly.
Martinsville's a very different track compared to what we had seen all season, especially the races previously, in the playoffs. And fun tracks, no doubt. The likes of Stafford, Irwindale, New Smyrna on the oval side of things. But it is a big track when you're racing in a Legends car. And you guys seem to handle it pretty well. You were able to get the win right out of the gate in heat race number 1 that puts you on a pole. And you never looked back. What would you compare tonight to the past races being able to find the speed?
I think in qualifying tonight, I talked to you about this last week during my interview. I really tried at Stafford last week to be consistent with my braking points, and during practice for Martinsville, I was really getting carried away and trying way too hard, and during qualifying, I just backed it down a little bit, and I think I could have got pole, but I screwed up turn 1 on my lap, so started 4th. But I was pretty happy with that after I saw that there was only 3 heats. I forgot, and I thought there was still going to be 5. So I thought there was I found out there was 3, and that helped me out a little bit. I knew that if I could win that first heat, that would put me in a really good spot for the main. So, and in the race, I just tried to be as consistent as I could. So.
Well, sometimes not having an opportunity to overthink things helps, and it's always the same way, and it was especially, evident tonight in the heat races and the LCQ. You didn't have to race in that last one, but very chaotic right from the get-go. Whether you're fighting for the race win, whether you're fighting for the transfer spot, you find yourself out in the race lead in this thing pretty early, and with a good jump, you got a great restart. Dave kept with you. Nobody else was able to keep up with you two, but it was very quickly about you a half a second in front of him, and then both of you 2 seconds plus on the rest of the field. Running that many green flag laps out in front with time to think about it, how'd you stay focused and stay locked in? Because Dave kept you honest there for a good bit.
Yeah, Dave was really quick. I was definitely surprised by his speed. He was really quick in his heat, and he pulled away from the field in that. So I knew he was going to keep me on my toes, and once I got that 0.5 of a second gap or so off the restart, off the start, I guess, I knew if I just didn't let that get within like 0.3, I'd be okay. So that's where I just took consistency into play and just really focused on not messing up, and I think I did a good job of that.
You mentioned, looking at your driver profile coming into this race, that you've been able to find success in real life, past a champion in a quarter midget. Of course, we've mentioned the accolades you've collected here on the iRacing service. Where does this performance tonight and this championship rank in your all-time accomplishments?
I think it's at the top. These guys are all really hard to beat. Quarter midgets, I never won any national events or anything like that. So, although I won 4 championships, I never had the opportunity to win on a national stage. And I think this is more of like a national stage almost. So I think every championship is really big for me, but this one especially. I just tried really hard for this, and everything that I've worked for in the last 5 years, 6 years, just growing up with racing and being dedicated to this, all coming to a close right here. So I'm just really glad I could close that out. Probably going to be really disappointed if I didn't, honestly.
Well, we talk about, the way that these playoff formats work. When you see on the real-life side of things with the NASCAR Cup Series, a 4-driver winner-take-all, that's the same format that we're going to see in a couple of weeks on Tuesday on the Peak side of things. Same concept here tonight, same amount of money on the line, but 30 drivers all bind for that one position. You get the $10,000 scholarship. You're going to get an opportunity to have a one-on-one instructional session with Max Pappas. That's also going to include one of his steering wheels. You'll get introduced to the folks over at NASCAR Racing Development. You're going to get a brand new sim seat, sim cockpit, a Martinsville VIP experience, a NASCAR Racing Experience voucher, and a VIP iRacing account on the side. What's next for Zach Novak?
I hope we can move on to bigger and better things. iRacing's taught me a lot. I'm really glad for all the people I've known through iRacing, and those relationships are going to stay forever. But, the NASCAR Peak Entry Series, I'm definitely going to be competing in that for years to come. And I wish I could compete in this again, but I'm a little too old coming next year. So, yeah, just hopefully I can move on to, a real-life Legends car or something even bigger than that. Trying all I can to get my name out there, and I think that's definitely helped.
I certainly think that being able to become the inaugural eNASCAR Ignite Series champion does just that, Zach. I know that you definitely want to get out of here and celebrate, and you've got a lot of official business to get to, so we will let you take off. Before we do, though, anybody that you want to say hi to who's been able to make this kind of a run possible for you while we have you?
Yeah, I just want to give a big shout out to simspeedshop.com. They've supported me since February this year. Jason's a big support of everything I do, so big thanks to Jason Eisenhower at simspeedshop.com for any button boxes, sim appliances. Go to him and he'll get you all fixed up. Big thanks to JDR Graphics for making this car look good, and big thanks to all my teammates at Lockdown Racing, Jimmy, Logan Clampett and Sheets, Brandon Coppinger, everybody. I'm kind of having a brain fart. Yeah, I'm sorry. Anyway, yeah, just thanks to all of them, and thanks to everybody at iRacing for putting this on, and NASCAR, and Race Spot, everybody, just thanks.
Well, it's a fun title, so I'll say it again. Congratulations, Zach. You're the 2018 eNASCAR Ignite Series champion. We appreciate your time post-race here. Congratulations on the title, and we look forward to seeing you down the line on the sim, maybe as well on the real-life side of things, sir. Take care.
Thanks, Evan.
Race winner tonight for the Martinsville Speedway and your series champion. Congratulations on behalf of everybody here at Race Spot and iRacing to Zach Novak, who is our inaugural champion. We've been building up to this for quite some time, Justin. I don't think that this finale disappointed. It had some crazy racing, but in the end, speed is what made the difference. And Zach Novak was the best car tonight.
Yeah, he was quick from the get-go. Dominated in his heat, one of the best qualifiers, able to get off to the good start and keep up the pace for the entire race, showing his experience from the various different parts of iRacing. And for him, he's got a lot to be proud of tonight here to win the inaugural eNASCAR Ignite Series Championship. The question is, what does he do from here on out?
What's next for Zach Novak, and what is next for this series? We've seen a ton of stuff between the folks over at NASCAR and everybody at iRacing, and we can't wait to see what the future holds. Also want to say another big thanks to Dylan Welch for joining us this evening. Dylan, thanks for hanging out, and hope you had a good time. It was a fun race, and happy that you were able to be a part of this with us. Tons of fun, again, seeing drivers like this, getting this opportunity on a big stage, and again, obviously, Zach Novak could reap the most benefits from this, but we both made the point right as the checkered flag came out that you made it to the top 30, you make it to the feature, you're those top 16, you finish this far, you've got a lot to be proud of, and I think a lot of drivers that we saw in this race have bright futures ahead of them.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, Evan, and you know, the fact that this event started with over 400 drivers in it and was narrowed down to 30, as we said, you know, certainly is something to put a lot of stock in and be proud of as yourself as a driver. So great finale, a great host of the finale race at Martinsville, saw a lot of exciting racing, and thank you guys for allowing me to be a part of it.
Also want to thank everybody for tuning in and joining us. That does it for us here tonight for the virtual Martinsville Speedway. If you want to get involved on the iRacing service, you can go to iRacing.com/membership. 40% off all new subscriptions. That's anything from 3 months to 2 years. Some more info on that at iRacing.com/membership. And well, we're not going to have NASCAR Ignite on Wednesday nights. There's tons more action right here. The best live sim racing action on the iRacing Esports Network, including, of course, the aforementioned NASCAR Pecan Freeze iRacing series, where you'll see the top oval drivers battle it out. They've got $10,000 hanging in the balance with 2 races to go in their playoffs, of course. Tons of other World Championship content right here on the iRacing Esports Network, from the dirt to the road and everything in between. So we certainly hope to see you again soon. But that does it for us here tonight from Martinsville. On behalf of our entire team at RaceSpot TV, for the team at NASCAR and the team at iRacing, we want to thank you for tuning in. And on behalf of our broadcast crew tonight, for myself, Evan Pasoko, for Justin Prince, Dylan Welch, and our producer, Randy Cheneth, congratulations to Zach Novak. He is your 2018 eNASCAR Ignite Series champion. Thanks for being with us all season. We'll catch you next time on the iRacing Esports Network.
The following is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.